Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk, fellas. We're going to talk update 1.24.1, which has just hit the server. Been out for a couple days. I've been digging around trying to figure this thing out. A couple guys asked if I would do a video on the new crew changes and things. We're going to talk about the update in general and specifically about some things on the crew change, and especially if you're thinking about converting your crews over to crew books, something you might want to think about on that as I've dug around. So let's just roll back to the top here and take a look at what has come out with this particular update. The big thing, obviously, for tanks, other than a rebalance of some tier 10s, is going to be these Polish TDs right here. So I have the 5. I've unlocked the 6. Let's just cover this real quick. If you go over to the tech tree, you will notice here on the Polish line that it splits off from the 14 TP. I just use free experience to get the Zadimka, and I'm on the Burza, tier 5 and tier 6. Wargaming has, for the fairly recent past, or maybe even for quite a bit longer, we don't get a full line anymore. We get these 2/3 lines, half lines kind of thing. The tier 8, 9, and 10 is where the new game mechanic with the damage being higher if you're closer happens, and the deep, what do they call them? Deep something, I don't know. Star shells. They're also extremely fast, but your tier 5, 6, and 7 are kind of basic casemate TDs. Couple things to think about these TDs, on these TDs. Number one is the crews are commander, gunner, driver, loader, with the commander being the radio operator, and that is true across the whole thing, which is nice. Number two, so far, for the tier 5 and the tier 6, they have atrocious azimuth, 5 degrees each side with the gun. So every time you hit that stop and try to move to target something, the bloom is terrible. They're only -7 gun depression, but other than that, they're fairly bog standard with relatively high alpha for their tier kind of TDs. So that's all we're going to talk about on those bad boys. Scroll down, that's the Polish TD line we got going on. I will be getting a review on the tier 5 and 6 pretty quickly, and then we'll work on the 7, 8, and 9 as I get those things unlocked. Okay, crews are now 100%, so they're free and they're 100% in their tank qualification. So no longer will you get a nerf on the tank based on your crew not being 100%, but you will get a nerf on your skills or on your perks if they're not trained for the tank they're in. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll come back to this in just a second. That's the main thing I want to talk about. Tier 10 vehicle rebalancing. They've touched several of the tier 10s. The ones they touched are the Panzer 7 with a buff, the AMX 50B with a buff. The Super Conqueror and Concaro got slight adjustments. Those are nerfs. I like how they called them slight adjustments. Fantastic. There you go. All right, I think the tier 8 to 9 French and Italian TDs got touched as well, so in the line of those two tanks. Map rebalancing, I'll cover this a little while later, but they did do some messing around with the maps. Onslaught is back. There is a brand new piece of equipment, guys. This is something that got by me, the IA, or the improved IA, the innovative targeting is what they call it. It's plus 9%, I believe, to dispersion, so that's fantastic. Unfortunately, it is behind the freaking Onslaught gate, which drives me bonkers. Thanks, Wargaming, for that. I don't want to play that mode, Wargaming. I don't care about it. Thanks for putting good stuff behind modes that a significant amount of your customers could give a shit about. All right, post-modem mode is interesting. I've seen that happen a couple times as I've played. So far, it hasn't been a big deal because I've more or less known who killed me and how they killed me. But it does show you, and it gives you some information on the armor that was there, or at least in terms of the angle of the armor, how much, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, something. Maybe it'll show it right here. Effective armor. Effective armor that is shown to you or shown to the enemy while they killed you. Very cool. You can see all the little percentages and things right there. Okay, let's roll back up to the crew thing. Let's go through what the article says real quick. There's a couple things to know in here. So, revision of major qualification level, no more penalties to vehicle performance. That's the idea that the crews are 100% when you get them in their vehicle that they're trained for. All right, good. That works. What they have done along with that is everything that was not 100%, they've boosted up to 100%. All right. Crew efficiency, perk efficiency, boost your crew to new heights. Okay. Crew efficiency value can be increased with specific perks, consumables, equipment, and commander's bonus. We already knew that. Perk efficiency value determines effectiveness of learned perks and is set to 100% by default. Retraining operations performed will reduce the perk percentage, and then you can increase that through crew experience to a maximum of 100,000 experience or 100%. So 1% perk efficiency increase is equal to collecting 1,000 crew XP. This is linear, so if you do any of the training events where your crew perks go down to 50% or whatever the different numbers are for your different retraining options if you don't pay for gold, then it is a total of 100,000 experience to get your perk up to 100% linear, okay? So that's quite a lot. I mean, if for some reason you got it down to 1%, you'd need 99,000 at that point. That's a decent amount of experience, but it's not huge if you're considering a higher perk, which would be if you're standardly trying to increase that standardly, you would be doing the exponential thing. All right, simplified crew member recruitment. I agree with that. You click on it, it's 100%. You recruit free guys. That's just how it goes. I'll show you some of that when we get into the client right there. And that's fine. That's all good stuff. Redesign of training and retraining. Made a few changes. Made the system easier to understand and more straightforward. I don't think so, but okay. The new system allows any crew of the same... All right, so this is... I love this. It's a throwaway statement, and let me read it. Allows any crew of the same nation to command any vehicle regardless of the class without negatively impacting the vehicle's performance. Even if the crew is not trained for the specific vehicle, you can roll straight in battle. I've read that and went, holy cow, that's pretty cool. Well, unfortunately, none of your perks will work. So your crew has to be trained for the vehicle, or your perks won't work. Remember, with premiums and reward vehicles, you can put any crew that's in the same class in there, and your perks will work anyway. Okay, so that still exists. But for your tech tree tanks, you can't just take your awesome arty crew from your M44 that you've played 20,000 times and put it in some 4-place tank and rage around the battlefield using all of your perks, because you can actually, but the perks won't work. I don't even know why they even mention that, but okay. Who on earth is doing that? Nobody. All right, penalties and disabling of crew perks. The same penalty to perk efficiency will be applied regardless of whether you perform a retraining operation on the same vehicle class or the class change. All right, I'm not going to dig too far into this. Just know that your perk efficiency will be lowered if you don't spend gold. That's the bottom line. 20,000 credits allows you to change the major qualification, which is nice, i.e. commander to gunner or some such thing like that. Actually, that's not true. I think that's the tank qualification, not the position qualification. So you can lower it to 40% or 40% or 60% or 40% with a vehicle. Okay, so I'm getting that a little bit backwards. There's a vehicle change and a role change. All right, so role change is, say, commander to gunner, and then vehicle change is something else. And when you do the retraining, you can change both. If you use gold, you keep everything as per normal. I.e. right here, no penalties will be applied if the crew member is retrained for gold. So spend your money, fellas. Spend your money. Here's an example. Loader has 100% in Brothers in Arms and 80 in Concealment, is retrained for credit, so you're cheap. A 40% penalty to perk efficiency is applied, reducing the effect of all perks. The Brothers in Arm perk, for example, now only provides a 3% bonus, so you do the math of what it gave you, and then you get 40% of that. And the Concealment's reduced. It requires 40,000 crew XP to return to full effectiveness. So this is interesting. A 40% penalty to perk efficiency. So I kind of got that backwards. So you remain with 60%. I love it. So you've got to get 40,000 experience to get your 40% back that you lost. You didn't go down to 40%. You went down to 60%. You lost 40%. See what I'm talking about? It's very easy. Very easy. All right. Woo. After collecting 19,000 crew XP in battles, perk efficiency is 79. That makes sense. Okay, we're not quite there. Perk reset Operations remain unchanged. For 20 or 200 gold, you can just reset all of your perks. For 20,000 silver, you will lose 10% of your total perk experience. Remember, as you have more perks, that's a lot more experience because of the exponential thing, but that's exactly as it ever was. For free, we'll deduct 20%, so that's same as it ever was. Okay, this is probably the biggest piece right here, guys. Some of you may have already clicked the button. What I don't know as of right now doing this video is whether when you convert, if you can then send more guys to the barracks and convert again. So be very careful. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's probably a one-time good deal, and there's some things you might want to think about before you do it. First of all, you got 90 days to do it, so it's not an emergency. Okay, mass dismiss. Crews that you no longer need to free up barrack slots. Now that sort of indicates maybe you can do it more than once. A special button's added. Remove crews that started training towards the first perk but have not yet mastered it. All right, so this is somebody. These are crews that do not have enough experience to have one perk finished yet. Remember, everyone's 100% now. So what happened is the experience it took to get to 100% with all these lower percentage crews you had, it got dumped onto them, onto their first perk. It looks like they just defaulted to Brothers in Arms for most of them right there. And now those guys aren't quite 100% in Brothers Arms, but they're 100% for their tank that they were trained in. Okay. Special button, first perk, not yet. Yep, the accumulated experience will be automatically compensated based on critic speed divided by the number of crew members in the trained vehicle. All right. Dismissing one German loader. Okay, this does the math. I'll show you where it'll show you what you get. Who gives a shit about this? All you're going to do is keep dumping guys into the barracks, and you're going to click. You're going to see the number of your books increase. That's the bottom line here. This option, all right, this is very important right here. This is very important. It will only affect regular crews without a fully trained first perk. I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's important. Crew members assigned to a vehicle, those from special events, those with 0 trained perks, and celebrities will not be dismissed. Very important. If they're in a vehicle, if they're a special crew member, if they have a 0 trained perk, even if you haven't selected or they don't have any other perks, but that kind of meets the criteria of having a 100% perk, doesn't it? And celebrities will not be dismissed. So even if they're in your barracks, you're good. I'll show you the proof of that in just a moment. You will keep the corresponding barracks slots, but temporary slots will be removed. Now, what they're not really saying here is you can put as many guys in the barracks right now as you want. Okay, you can go over your number so that you can do the dismissal. Realize that if you start doing that and you go past your barrack slots, you're not going to be able to move crews very easily. Not exactly, though, because they've made it to where you can actually go from tank to tank, so it's not impossible. We'll talk about that as well. To activate this option, you must log in before the release date of 125. It's a one. Okay, so here we go. I just answered my own question. Well, maybe. I mean, yes, it's a one-time for that group of guys, cannot be reverted. What I don't know is if you can do it again. I'm going to go with the assumption you cannot. So you probably want to make this... you want to make your move, get all the crews you want in the barracks to dismiss at one time, and then press Mr. Button. All right. So let's talk a couple more things, then we're going to go back to that and go through the client. I want to show you a couple things on the client with what you might want to think about before you dismiss your crew and get a bunch of crew books. Simplified crew transfer. Yes, this allows you... I'm not sure it's simplified. I'll show you all the different filters and things. It's kind of the same, but slightly different. You can switch crews directly from one vehicle to another. That's what I was talking about, where it's okay if you have too many guys in your barracks right now because you can actually go vehicle to vehicle. It's not exactly the simplest thing. It's also possible to send crews to the barracks even if they're at capacity. In this case, you won't be able to recruit a new... Oh, well, that's interesting. You won't be able to recruit a new free crew member, even though they go directly into the tank. That's dumb. Okay, great. Good job. Newcomer bonuses, experimenting with your crew setup. This appears to be for everybody. I don't know why it says newcomer bonus. New players get a chance to experiment and familiarize themselves with the updated, thanks to discounts, yada yada. While learning the first perk, newcomers can freely switch between vehicles and retrain them without penalties to perk efficiency using a 100% gold discount. All right, so it's free. 100% gold discount. That's what free means. All right. After the crew has reached their first 100%, and while learning a second perk, new players will still see a 50% credits or gold discount to reach. Oh, I see what this means. This does not mean a newcomer to playing this game. It means new crew. Why would it be newcomer? New crew. That's what it seems like to me. So you can move around your perks while they're not 100% yet. All right, cool. I'm assuming this is new or will be permanent or whatever. Okay, I've teased this enough. Let's talk about it. If you go to your barracks, obviously you've got all the filters and things going on right here. What we want to know is who's in the barracks. So we'll use the filter and we'll put the button here in barracks. And now we should see all the guys that are in barracks. Now I've got all kinds of guys in the barracks here, right? This is a person with a lot of skills. First of all these special crew, commanders, etc., they won't get did, all right? They're not going to get converted. If you come down here, let's say Stephen Culverhouse. He has 100% and he's on 64 in his second. He will not be converted, even though he's in the barracks. Okay? So good to go. This guy, Medwin Dimmock. That's a great name. He is 83% on his first skill. He will be converted. He's in the barracks. He does not have 100% on his first skill. He will be converted. Now I can prove this. All right. So we're going to look for. Let's go up here to find the first guy we'll probably run into. Old Amory Barnes. Amory Barnes. So if we look at Amory Barnes, he's in a T7 car. He's a T7 car guy. Okay, he's a commander. We're going to come down to this button down here. It's beneath me. Okay, it's right there. It says conversion. We're going to click on that. We're going to look at, by clicking on this square, notice it's actually live. It's going to show you the crew members that are going to convert. And there's old Amory. Notice that none of those special crew are showing up here. And if we scroll down, these are all guys with less than 100% on their first skill. Now, I think most of these guys were probably 100% crew that were in premiums and various things. Look at this, Chrysler K, XM66F, T26, E4. When you buy or win premiums, what happens? You get crews with them, right? Generally, you toss those crews, and I would have bet a lot of people dismissed them messing around with barracks, not really knowing this would be a thing in the future. You usually take them out and you move crews from tech tree tanks in there, right? Unless you're me and you actually train up crews specifically in premiums because you're a Muppet. But whatever, I have too many crews. Most people kind of kick them out and put other crews in the premium, and they usually cool their heels around your barracks. And if you've been having a lot of guys cooling their heels around your barracks for the last 13 years like me, you've got a lot of these guys that were 100%, and with the little bonus thing, the addition based on the changes they did, they're all sitting at 83% on their first skill, so they did not get their first skill, and they are all eligible to be cleaned. We're going to clean the barracks. We're tired of these guys hanging around. They're eating all our food, drinking all of our vodka in the case of all these Russians right here. The Brits have decimated the tea. There are no frogs left in the general area. We have one Japanese guy. One. Oh, man, he's over there making the sushi. Is this, I don't know if I can say all this stuff. Man, sushi sounds good right now. Got the Chinese in here doing all that kind of whatever they do. Sweden. You know what I'm saying? Lots of fellas. All right. So they would all be converted. We're not going to do that. Let's not click affirmative. We'll just go and we'll just close out of that. Now, I started looking around because I was kind of curious. I thought to myself, this is a nightmare. You have a lot of crew. Crew members, 2,078. For those of you that have smaller barracks or smaller amount of crews or a smaller amount of crews or less crew or less people or whatever, this is going to be much easier. For people like me, this can be a bit of a nightmare. But I started to dig around, and here's I'm finally getting to one of the most important pieces. Remember when I said on the T26 E4, the Super Pershing, that you probably got that tank and you kicked the crew out and you put a new crew in and they've been cooling their heels for all of this time. And now you're looking, I'm going, cool, I'm going to get some books out of that guy. Well, guess what? Over the years, I bet you have a lot of these kind of premium tanks. The Sahariano. Check this out. Look at this crew. These are all guys with less than a full perk, that are trained to the Saharino, which is a premium, and you don't really need that crew, right? So you might want to think about, fellas, taking these crew members, especially out of the lower tiers. And what I've done here for the filter is I've filtered up to tier 5. And I'm going to actually take 5 out of it because I like my 5s. I generally don't play any tier 1 through 4. This is where I'm going to start. I'm going to go through all my tier 1 through 3 or 1 through 4s. And I'm going to especially prioritize the premiums. And I'm going to go ahead and chuck these guys over into the get rid of file, right? And the way we're going to do this is with this button, get out of there, with this button, send to the barracks. All right, remember, you don't need barracks slots because you can overfill the barracks right now. Let's go to the barracks here real quick, and we'll see what we're going to get. If you click on the conversion, as long as you don't hit convert, you're good. Notice that I get 11 of the training manuals, 9 of the training guides, and 34 training booklets. All right, so 11, 9, 34, and I have 197 crew members to convert. So let's send these guys 11, 9, 34. Try to remember that number, 11, 9, 34. We'll send these guys. Takes a while, actually. Come over here. We'll go back here. 11, 9, 30, 10. Boom. We got an extra. And we're at 201 to convert. So I'm going to have to go through all of my tanks here, especially these lower tier premiums. The other thing I'm finding is, check this out, the Fiat, right? Fiat 3000. Oh. Look, if you're going to play your Fiat 3000, go for it. If you're not, check out the books you can get. Also, in addition to, let's say you decide you want to play your Fiat 3000, Fiat Andre 3000 down here, and you go, geez, I really wish I hadn't put those guys into the conversion. Well, guess what? It's free, fellas. Yeah, the free guys won't be at 83% on their first perk, but you're at the lower tiers at tier 1. Who gives a flying flip? So I would look at any of these tanks that are showing guys in them, and you might want to chuck them into the mix. So we're going to do the same thing with them. You're out of here, fellas. We're going to get rid of you. The last thing you want to check, and this is where it gets a little tricky. I don't think it shows up on any of these tanks. Let's see. Let's go find another. Let's go to the US because there's so many of them. The other one I ran into is because my crews are kind of screwed up, and of course now that I'm doing it, I won't run into the situation. Here's some guys I can get rid of. Combat car guy, I can probably get rid of him. But these are all premiums. Let's see. Some of these tanks that are tech tree tanks have crews sitting around. Here we go. M2 medium tank. This is a crew I've probably built, but they were brand new. They'd all just been chucked in there. And maybe I played this once or twice. So that's a whole crew of books right there I can get. M3 Lee, this is probably a trained crew. So that commander won't be able to be used, but I can use those. I'm probably not going to do the T6 medium. I have a few tier 4s I like. Obviously, these guys are on their 3rd skill, so they're not eligible anyway. I'm trying to find, on some of these tanks, I had singletons sitting around. Although, of course, now that I'm doing it this way, not one of them's going to show up, is it? No, of course not. They give it one more shot with the Germans here. Like tractor, that's the same idea we just talked about. Going for the tech tree stuff here. There's a crew. They're almost 98, although Panzer III I think I've played a bit. And naturally, since I'm trying to do the video, here we go. Here's a Alps 1C. They're not quite 100%. That's a tank I might play. So you do need to take that into account, fellas. But look at all these different guys I've got. Panzer 38T NA. Make books out of those guys, right? And honestly, you can probably, here's an interesting one, the Gross Tractor. This crew is probably somewhere else, or I've moved, it's actually a 50M guy, that's interesting. Now see, this is the other issue for me. Although the good news is, even if I put him in the barracks, he's not going to go away because he's above 100% on his first skill, or first perk. All right, I think you see where we're going with that. Durbridge wagon, DW2. There's some guys I could get rid of. You're going to have to do that math in your own cranium, whether you want to get rid of all these guys that aren't quite 100%. Based on how fast guys train, my advice to you really is based on how fast guys train. I'd send every single one of those crews that isn't 100%. And the fact that new crews are free, if for some reason in these lower tiers, tanks you don't play very much or aren't planning on playing at all, just get rid of all of them, fellas. Get rid of all of them. Get as many books out of that as you can. And then you can build crews that you want with the books. I mean, yes, you're probably not getting the same amount of books for the crews that it would take to rebuild the crew. I haven't done that math, so let me know if that's even true down below. But I don't think it's far off, and it's not like you're going to get rid of 50 crews out of a bunch of tanks you don't use, and then tomorrow realize you want all 50 back. It'll be dribs and drabs, and the crews are free. So my advice really is to go through your tanks and just start chucking every one of these guys that aren't 100% out of these tanks, especially like this. These guys are trained for a premium. That's easy. Send them. Get your books. All right. And that's probably the most important piece of this whole thing. Real quickly, if you did want to swap guys out just to kind of show how that works, we're going to click on that guy. And then you've got the little button to replace. You're going to click on that. And now we have to go through. Remember how Wargaming told you this was super easy? I mean, I guess it kind of is. You can pick from any one of these guys. All of these fellers are available. And then if you want to filter it, you can do so, right? So it is a tank destroyer. He is a commander. Let's go with guys and tanks. So we could do that, or we go with only the guys that are in the barracks. So we just go with guys and tanks, then I can pick which tank I want to pull out of and put into there. There you go. It takes a little futzing around with the filters to see exactly what you want. It's a little confusing at first, but just realize that you can swap them directly. You just have to filter for which guy you're looking for and then scroll around and find them. If you've got a lot of characters, a lot of crew, that can be a bit of a pain in the rear, but if you use the filters correctly, especially if you start thinking about tiering that you're looking for, you can narrow down the search and get the guy you want pretty quickly. There you go, fellas. That's it. That's all I've got for this particular patch. Like I said, we will talk more about the tanks, the new TD. I'm going to do a review on the Tier 5 here in just a moment. That'll be out soon. We will keep an eye on the whole transfer thing right here. I have a lot of work to do, so I'm not going to be hitting that button anytime soon. I got to start kicking guys out and get them ready to be transferred into books. If there's anything more about that I missed or any misspeaks I made, please put that down below for everybody else to hear so that we get this thing right. I do like the 100% crew. That's fine. It's nice that we can retrain and do all the things we're doing there. Last thing I'll say about the barracks cleanup, why? Now, I think it's because eventually we're getting to the idea of some kind of unified crew. Wargaming has talked about a crew that can work in 3 different tanks. You got these trainer guys that are going to be some of the special characters. It's kind of making a captain idea like World of Warships, but not quite. We're not there yet. I think this is in support of that. Otherwise, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because who gives a shit if people have a lot of guys sitting around in their barracks? But there you go. And that's pretty much it. Of course, there's also the rebalance. We'll probably cover that on a coffee talk or something like that. It's not a huge big deal. Now I think we're done. That's all I've got. Let me know what you guys think about the patch below, and we will see ya.